So I'm always thinking of different ways to do these reviews if I don't always want to be on camera, and just to go over some of my thoughts. So first of all, welcome back to Amani's Vibe. My name is Amani. I actually love doing this. I know I may not have thousands of followers like other people, but I think I have like 770, which is awesome to me. My goal was to try to have 1,000 subscribers by the fall, and I think I'm doing it. And though many people, they just post, I actually like to have a story behind my post or actually plan my posts. I definitely cannot have as fast a turnaround around as many of the other people because I have to deal with other things in real life. But I wanted to talk about a few things that I feel like flash by when I'm watching the show. And I actually took notes from last night's show. It's getting really good. And plus, the show is almost over. So we do understand they're going to have to get rid of a lot of people. And they may even get rid of Justine. Like, who knows what's going to happen. But I just wanted to start. I wanted to talk a little bit about Justine and Tyreek before I even get into what happened on the show, because I know some people might be like, why is she with Tyreek? But for those of us who have watched Justine since season 2 and have watched her with Caleb, who ended up not being who he really said he was, having a girlfriend the whole time, and she took him to meet her family. There was all this stuff. You know, the audience loved them the same way the audience loves Serena and Cordell, the same way the audience, some of the people love Nick and Alondra, and other people love Shelly and Ace. That is the type of way that the audience was there for Justine and Caleb. And so when the whole thing was found out that he actually had a girlfriend the whole time, his family was in on it. It was a whole thing, right? And imagine how that was for her. And during that time, Shelly and Justine were very open after the show. You know, they did Q&As, they started a podcast, but what happens over time is that people realize they can't maintain all this, and then they have to figure out what they do. And I remember that Justine did one interview where she sort of talked about it and sort of not. And I think her name is Bailey. I'm so sorry. She did one interview with the young lady from Big Brother. I'll have to look it up and then I'll put it there. And that was it. And you could tell she was still hurt by what happened. She never really talked about it. And I kind of understand Justine in that way. I'm that type of person. But I will deal with things and will heal. But love and opening up is not that easy for everyone. And I do think that watching Love Island, watching millennials and Gen Zs, the way that they go about love and sex and relationships is just like, for me, it's just like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like maybe that's a part of being younger, but Justine just never really carried herself that way. Nor did Sally when she was on the show. So all this to say, the things that are happening with couples now are all things that have happened before. But I wanted to talk about Justine because I know that situation with Caleb really hurt her. She never really talked about it. It took her a while to get over it. She finally did see Caleb again at an event last year, and she was able to talk to him because people saw them posted together and they're like, what's going on? What's going on? But she was just like, no, it was good to actually see him because she'd never talked to him since that breakup, okay? Then Love Island Games season 1 happened, and I watched the show, and I watched her and Jack, and I do not look at social media when I watch these shows. It's probably why I'm able to enjoy them, okay? Meaning I don't go on the Love Island Games page. I don't go on Twitter. I quit Twitter a while ago. I do not go on Reddit, nothing. But once the show started, I did want to learn more about Jack, right? Just to see if he was single, who he was. You know, I saw that he was a DJ, that he was actually mixed. His father is Black. What else? Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to know those things because though he is He does appear to look like he has no melanin. He actually is somewhat melanated, okay? So I think it's like, okay, okay, Jack. Anyway, long story short, their story was crazy, okay? And Toby is who stands out to me also from Love Island Games, because Toby, man, he can be, I don't even know. You see it in his eyes sometimes now. Toby can be a lot. And Toby had dated Sully, just so you know, a bit on the show before Sully was with Elan, okay? So Justine went through this whole thing again of opening up to Jack. Meanwhile, Zeta Morrison had basically said that Jack wasn't who he said he was on the show, that he was trying to talk to people. And so all that stuff happens every time. You don't know who to believe. Is what Zeta was saying is true, blah, 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 blah. What it seemed, and then Jack came back to the States to spend time with Justine, you know, because they won the prize, the money, all that. He cooked with her. It was around Thanksgiving. It was a whole thing. But I didn't know if they were together or not. And I think it was just something that they had to do to save appearances. But I can tell you that Justine really, really, I am sure, fell in love with Jack, regardless of where he lived. So I am glad that at least he came back to support her. So all of this happened. All of this happened last year, okay? And then I know she was on, I didn't watch the show, the other show that Justine was on, because these shows, I only look at Love Island Games. And then I already heard that she didn't play much of a part and that the guy, he was already with someone else. So I didn't even bother watching it. Too Hot to Handle or whatever show it was. Sorry, y'all. Perfect Match. So all of that happens, and then in between, you know, Justine, she does Q&A sometimes, so you know, she's dated, she's whatever, but it seems that she still hasn't met her person. So she definitely is like a lover girl deep down. She's also 32 years old now, so she's not like a spring chicken anymore. She's older, right? So when I see her with Tyreek, who I have looked up, his age is 26, and he is a menace and all that stuff. He is that guy. He is that menacing guy that you know is bad for you, but you still want to talk to them. We've all done it. I've done it back in the day when I was younger. So it's kind of like, do I like them together? I mean, you know that if she actually is with Tyreek, it's for a time. But here's the other thing with Tyreek, and we don't know what's going to happen in the show tonight, but I think he does really like her. I didn't watch him on the show before, but he's young. He definitely is a bit immature in his ways of looking at things and the way he had to get Justine back. But I think Justine is kind of like, you know what? I'm always this lover girl. I'm always going for these guys who on the outside, Caleb and Jack seemed like amazing guys, you guys. They seem like like the type of guys that you would take home to your parents. And Justine did take Caleb home to her parents, okay? They seem like clean cut guys who would never do anything to hurt her, and they both did. So I just wanted to say this. I feel that that's why she's like, yo, you know what? Let me hang out with somebody that's a little bit toxic, that's moody, that I don't know what's going on. Let me do this because I'm older now. It's about time. Let me just have some fun. And so I just wanted to say that first before I talk about the show. Okay, and my next subject area is Johnny Middlebrooks, or Middlebrook. Sorry, Johnny. This is just short, but you didn't see season 2. Johnny was Sally's love interest. Johnny went to Casa Amor and he had a field day with a lady named Mercedes, but then came back and kind of downplayed his story. So him and Sally stayed together for like a year, for a long time. And yeah, and they didn't really talk or really interact much after they broke up until Love Island Games last season. So that was like another thing with last season. And Sally's able to joke about it. She's healed from it. She spends a lot of time with herself. I don't think she has a boyfriend now. She was also with Elan from the show. So that was a joke on After Sun that all her exes are on the show. Toby, Elan, Johnny. And her and Johnny, like, they were really were a special couple when they were together. Johnny, I'm going to tell you, I don't know how they make the young men these days, but even when he was on the show, I was like, how old is he? I think he was 22 because, like, I'm in my 50s and Johnny to me looked like he was well in his 30s, okay? And even more so now. And he's a handsome looking guy. So just to catch you up, was it he this is what he does. What he's doing now is what he does. What he did to Andreina is what he does. And maybe he does sometimes really like people, but he really is about the game. And he's good at it. And he's doing that with Gabby now. So we don't know what will happen with him. But I just wanted to tell you a little bit about that. He also has a daughter. So when he was on the show last season, it wasn't necessarily public knowledge that he had a child, but the internet sleuths, they're the ones that kind of leaked that, I would say, while the show was on, but he still left like the one person on the show and then was like, I really like this next person. And it was close to the end. It was all about the show and the game, okay? And that's how he is, and that's who he is. So I just wanted to say that. I have actually followed him since the show, and sometimes people have a bad reputation and they can't come back from it, but Johnny, like, he's had a really good career, really good brand deals. He's modeled, he's done a lot of stuff since the show, and he's doing well for himself, and he is definitely a loving father, like, and that is just so cool to see. So I just wanted to give you that little story time before now I talk about Love Island Games Season 2 and Episode 11, or whatever they say it is when you look at the show. And I'm going to let you know what happened last night. Whew, it was quite a show. So basically, let me clear my throat. So basically, last night's show was really, really good. The first part of the show was all about people making out or making up. Johnny and Gabby had a very heavy kissing sesh, which they showed us from an aerial view for some reason, because things might have, that little speaker room or speakeasy, things seem to be getting hot and heavy in there. Then we saw a conversation between Casey and Nicola about Nicola blending in with the furniture. Oh my goodness. And then Tyreek and Justine and their makeup, they're back and forth. And is this toxic? And Tyreek, like, I guess, trying to apologize, saying that he felt bad for what he did, but it's just what he had to do on principle. Justine's like, I don't know if I trust you, but then they do kiss, and I don't know if they make up, but I know that Justine does not trust him at all. And that night when they're in the bed, Tyreek says to Justine, if you had sex with me, would you fall in love? And she said, yeah, probably. That happened during Lights Out. The next day, they find out that it's going to be team sports. They're going to be divided into 2 teams, okay? So that the captains are going to be Nicola and Casey and Johnny and Gabby, I believe, okay? And then they pick teams, okay? Okay, so now they have to do this super crazy, I don't know what to call it, the sweet spot, I guess it was called. It was this slimy game like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory that involved sweets and sprinkles and jam and marshmallows that they had to fill into these vials. And some vials were shorter and some were longer. And they had to fill them up with all of this goo. And they had to slide down the goo. They had to slide back up. And then at the end, after they filled the 3 vials, they then had to step on a balloon. And whichever balloon popped first, that means that team won. Okay? So first, we have that Garby. How do I have? Okay, so Nicola and Casey beat Andrea and Isaiah. Then there was Garby and Kendall against Gabby and Johnny, but Gabby and Johnny beat Garby and Kendall barely. Tyreek and Toby were up against Justine and Josh, and it was so unfair because they're 2 big, robust, strong men who are bosom buddies. And I just have lots of pictures there because they look crazy. And it was a lot of fun. And a lot of double entendres were recited by Moira, who was the host of the show. There was jam, there were sprinkles, marshmallows everywhere. It was terrible, and tons more double entendre with everything they did. And then so oh yeah, sorry, so Tyreek and Toby beat Justine and Josh because of course it wasn't fair, and because they had an uneven number, they had to have one person from each group. So it ended up being Lucinda from Johnny's team versus Sydney from Casey's team. And long story short, it actually looked like Sydney was going to win because we've never seen Sydney in a competition, and she actually was doing pretty good. But there's something about that yellow balloon, y'all. I'm telling y'all, it was rigged. But so it looked like Sydney was winning. And then Lucinda was kind of behind. Well, first she was ahead, then Sydney got ahead. But then in the end, Lucinda actually beat Sydney. Oh, it was so gross. So gross. So Sydney finishes yeah, she finishes first, but then she can't burst a balloon. So then Lucinda bursts a balloon, which means that Lucinda won. So now the timing has to happen for the team. So here's the order. In sixth place was Justine and Josh. In fifth place was Andrea and Isaiah. In fourth place was Garby and Kendall, just barely. In third place was Gabby and Johnny. So that's Garby and Kendall, Gabby and Johnny. Second place was Nicola and Casey. First place was Toby and Tyreek. Okay, so Gabby and Johnny's team won, and with Lucinda's time added to it. Okay, so the losing team was Garby, Kendall, Justine, Josh, Nicola, Casey, and Sydney. All right. Okay, so then Johnny and Gabby are making out because that's what they do. And they get a text that says they are now the power squad. So their team is a power squad. So forget power couple. There's now a power squad. Okay, so now they have to gather the people. So, and Josh and Andrea are chatting about their love or not love or what's going on. People are kind of chatting, but then they have to gather the power squad. So, of course, they gather them all up into the bedrooms to talk. And then what happens when they're all together? They get a text, and it's Tyreek that gets the text. And the text says that the next night there's going to be a duel, and it's going to be two guys and two girls, and they have to pick them. And they have to pick them by sealing it with a kiss. So the power squad has to pick the two guys and two girls to duel. So you know it's either going to be like Sydney and Nicola, or it's going to be Justine versus Garby, or it's going to be Josh versus Casey, or Josh versus Kendall, or Kendall versus Casey. You get the picture. Garby, Justine, Nicola, Sydney, Casey, Josh, Kendall, Josh, Kendall, Casey. Okay, so they have to choose between that other team who is going to have the duel, and that's where we left off. And Tyreek is so excited. So the cliffhanger is Tyreek gonna is Justine gonna have to duel? Will Justine be actually kicked off the show? Is Justine gonna have to go with Garby? Will the two black sisters be fighting against each other? What's gonna happen? Or are they gonna take the easy way out and have Nicola and Sydney? I actually think the show wants Nicola there. I told you, and Tyreek and Justine, but we will see. We will see what happens. And so that is it. That is the cliffhanger. And Tyreek was hilarious during the scene, but they're all hilarious. They're all excited. But Andrea is upset because, of course, she's falling for Josh, and now he might have to duel. And she's now in the power squad, and we don't know what's going to happen. Dun, 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 dun. To be continued. And that's what's up.